Right now, diesel prices are eating into farming margins faster than almost any other input cost. Most producers think that because fuel prices fluctuate, they just have to wear the cost and hope for a drop. Well, the truth is, when diesel becomes a major structural pressure on your cash flow, it needs to be actively managed, just like interest rates or rainfall. After helping hundreds of farmers secure over $1 billion in finance, I can tell you that the best operators don't just absorb high input costs, they restructure their working capital to absorb the shock. So in this video, I'm going to show you the exact 4-step strategy to restructure your finance, free up cash flow, and manage volatile input costs without crippling your business.
Welcome to Dollars in the Dirt. I'm Brecken Curtis, and this is where we break down the finance side of farming so you can grow your operation, buy that next property, and build real wealth. Let's get into it.
So let's start with cash flow is king. The first thing you need to understand is that businesses don't fail because they are unprofitable. They fail because they run out of cash at the wrong time. With fuel prices doubling to over $3 a litre, those rising costs can quickly erode your margins and drain your bank account. You need to reforecast your budgets immediately with a realistic diesel price and then stress test it with another 20% increase. You have to build buffers into your budget. If you're just scraping by on your current prices, a sudden spike could force you to make panic decisions, like selling off your herd. Working capital needs to absorb volatility shocks and not amplify them. It's about knowing your cost of production inside and out. Once you know your true cost of production with these new fuel prices, you can start reviewing your options. I had a client recently who had been burning through $20,000 a month in diesel just to keep the operation running. They were profitable on paper, but the cash flow timing was killing them. They were paying for fuel up front and then waiting 90 days to get paid for their produce. The gap is where the business dies. We had to sit down and completely rebuild their cash flow forecast, not based on what they hoped fuel costs would be, but what it actually costs them today, plus a 20% buffer. And if you aren't doing that right now, you're flying blind. And that leads to the next point around making sure your structure is organised. This leads us to a critical step, getting your loan structure right. You need to increase your working capital well in advance of needing it. Don't wait until the tank is empty and the bank account is dry. And as a broker, I work with clients to make sure their facilities are set up interest only to preserve their cash during the high cost periods. And you also need to make absolutely sure that capital purchases like machinery or infrastructure are not being funded through your working capital facilities. This is a guaranteed way to choke your cash flow. You need to get the structure right and give yourself breathing room. If your cash flow allows, consider bulk buying when possible or increasing on-farm storage, but don't empty your bank account just to save a few cents a litre. Think of your working capital facility like a shock absorber. If you're driving over a rough road like a massive spike in input costs, you need a big shock absorber. If your working capital limit is too tight, every bump is going to rattle the whole business. I see farmers all the time who have millions in equity but can't pay the fuel bill because their debt is structured entirely as a term loan with high principal and interest repayments. And we structure the debt, pull out some of the equity, create a dedicated working capital facility, and suddenly they have the cash flow to operate without stress. And this leads me to the next point around asset utilization and efficiency. Once your loan structure is sorted, you have to look at how you're actually using the fuel. Do you have the right machines for the size of your operation? It might seem counterintuitive to spend money when costs are high, but are older pieces of machinery costing you more in fuel than what they could save you in repayments on a new one? More efficient machines. You need to also consider utilising contractors for peak work instead of owning and running everything yourself. It's about being ruthless with your efficiency. I was looking at a client's machinery schedule the other day. They had an old tractor that was burning 30% more fuel per hour than a modern equivalent. They were holding on to it because it was paid off. But when they ran the numbers, the extra fuel cost over a year was actually higher than the finance repayments on a new efficient machine. And sometimes taking on debt to upgrade equipment is the smartest cash flow decision you can make, provided the efficiency gains outweigh the finance costs. You have to look at the total cost of operation and not just the debt level.
Just quickly, if you're tired of explaining your operation to a new bank manager every year, only to get a one-size-fits-all deal that doesn't fit your business we can help. At Seasoned Finance, we do things differently. We've got over 70 years of combined experience in agricultural lending, and we work for you, not the banks. We're the consistent expert team in your corner, fighting to get the finance that actually helps you grow, purchase the next property, and build your legacy. Don't leave money on the table. If you're looking at your next move or just want a second opinion on your current setup, click the link in the show notes to book a confidential, no obligation chat with the team, and we'll show you what's possible. Righto guys, now back to the episode.
And this leads me to point 4, having the mindset of a CEO. Finally, you have to adopt the mindset of a CEO. You're not just trying to survive, you want to be in a position to take advantage of opportunities when others are struggling. Treat fuel volatility exactly like you treat interest rates. It needs to be actively managed, be proactive in organising your working capital, and don't fall into the trap of thinking prices will come back down. Assume this is the normal and plan accordingly. And most importantly, communicate early with your lenders about your plan moving forward. You can't control the diesel prices, but you can absolutely control how exposed you are to them. Keeping it positive and focus on managing your business. The producers who thrive in tough times are the ones who treat their farms like a corporate business. They don't complain about the things they can't control, and they're aggressively managing the things they can. They have regular meetings with their broker and their accountant, they review their budgets monthly, and they stress test with their assumptions. When the bank sees that level of professional management, they are far more likely to support you with working capital. It's about demonstrating control in an uncontrollable environment. So guys, at the time of recording this episode, the fuel price has actually retracted a little bit. We're seeing some producers that have seen a 30 to 40 cent reduction in diesel prices over the last couple of weeks. The point of this is making sure that you've always got a buffer. You might be diesel this time, it's going to be, fertilizers, the next thing that's going to be spiking. All your input costs are quite volatile. So making sure we've got a buffer in your budgets is really important. Don't let a spike in input costs force you into selling assets that actually make you money. Get your structure right, build in your buffers, and manage the risk. If you need help reviewing your current loan structure to make sure that the working capital you need, reach out to Seasoned Finance. We can do the heavy lifting for you, and look forward to seeing you in the next episode.
Thanks for tuning in to Dollars in the Dirt. If you've got value from today's episode, make sure to subscribe so you never miss the insights you need to grow your business. And if you're ready to stop being just another number to the banks, visit Seasoned Finance via the link in the show notes. Remember to follow us on socials, and catch you next time.